Welcome everyone to this edition of Talented Universe on the NDB Media Network. It is, I can't believe it's the end of June 30th, 2025. And today I'm going to introduce my co-host, and she's going to introduce our wonderful guest tonight. Marcia, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I am really thrilled today to be able to chat with live Tina Ann Brock, who is an actress, director, stage director, award winner, and welcome.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Michael. That was quite an introduction. That's a lot. Thank you for having me.
It's super fun when I delve into people's backgrounds, and your background is so full. We could talk. I even sort of call you a Renaissance woman because and we're here mainly to talk about verticals, of course. So why don't we can start there with verticals.
Okay.
And I'm very pleased to have you here because you are a seasoned person in your life as well as the verticals. But how did you come to know about this still new form of media?
I think probably like I think I remember hearing on this broadcast a number of my colleagues that I've worked with. And for me, it was a little bit later, I think, than many people. I'm in the New York area, so I want to say it was maybe last March of 2024, which might have been a little bit later than I mean, certainly people in Los Angeles around the world have been working on them for a while. But I did see them on the breakdown, and I just sent my information in and did a couple of auditions, and I think then I got booked on my first one, who was the stilted wife of a guy who was having an affair, and she runs into the ER, and she's crying over who she thinks is her husband, but it's the wrong body, and it's mistaken identity kind of thing. But I think that was my first one, and then they started. I started seeing more and more auditions, both in New York and LA, and I kept auditioning, and then I started, booking them, and then they just kind of happened, one after that. It was very fortunate in 2024, and they happened pretty much one after another. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you first learned about them, because I know I'm probably maybe 6 months into learning about the vertical drama format. What did you first think when you realized that this came over from China? Mm-hmm. is really my understanding. And when you thought, well, what are they doing? Exactly. Did it take you a minute to kind of?
Well, it came, I guess maybe it's I don't know, I'm going to point to maybe it's the theatrical background. We're sort of, I want to say, like, always up for new interpretation or new whatever comes your way, make it work kind of thing. I think I didn't ask the questions I was asking about the auditions when I first got them. And I remember talking to my reader, who was the woman that was reading with me, and she had auditioned for a number of them. And I said, well, are we soap opera here? This reads like a soap opera. Are we melodramatic? Is it comedic? Is it it looked quite heightened, or it sounded quite heightened in the language. And I thought, it's got to be, is what I was thinking, which is the way I ended up delivering it in the audition. I think I got those first couple auditions, and booking sort of, happened. And then I started doing more of the research on sort of the history of it, because I did get very interested in how it all sort of, how it came and what it was trying to do. And then I started researching and just watching more and trying to get a sense of, understanding, like, just what we were doing, what, as an actor, what I needed to be doing, and that kind of whole, mm-hmm. what I needed to bring to the table.
Okay. Michael, did you want to ask your?
Yeah, I was going to ask mine. It's similar to what you did. I asked this to everyone. And since So when you first heard about it, you go, oh, and then you said you did some auditions, then you did research. What happened when you first told your first friend what you were doing? How did you explain to them what a vertical drama or vertical format was?
Yeah, I explained it as designed to be watched in vertical fashion on your phone in short snippets. Snippets meaning a minute, 2 minutes, sort of like a comic book or a soap opera, but just in very digestible form. Digestible meaning just very short form. And what happened for me when I started watching them is I did find them to be quite, I'll use the word addicting because it's
Yes.
go-to, right? I was
Yes.
so intrigued with the characters and I really wanted to see, and I'm old enough to remember way back in the day, the television, like Dallas and sort of all of the television soap operas that were, obviously much longer, which is, in form, but I really got pulled into it very quickly.
Sad, isn't it?
Yeah, well, but I think so much. I think we've talked about this, and I know many, many people say that it's right time, right place, right? I mean, I feel like every day it's sort of, I have an absurd theater company. So when people say to me all the time, well, Tina, it's a wonderful, great time for an absurd theater company. And I said, oh, absurdity doesn't even begin some days to sort of encompass what we go through or what many of us go through on a daily basis. And I do think having a familiar storyline or a comforting storyline or faces that you recognize or a format that's familiar that you don't have to know that you have to invest an hour in if you don't want to, I think that's really soothing and necessary on many levels.
I'm going to ask one more question that is very bizarre, but then I'm going to let Marcia take over for the reality of things. Did you realize, Tina, how many secret billionaires there are in the world?
I
They
know,
keep
right?
their identity secret from everyone.
Well, who knew? I mean,
I know.
I know there's a lot of billionaires in the world, but my experience of the world is that they're all too ready to talk about it. So I didn't know so many of them were hiding behind trees or like long lost cousins or sons that I didn't know were billionaires that were gone for years and suddenly they just re-returned and they have all this money.
Or they were construction workers and they just...
Yes. I mean, as a mom,
amazing.
I can't tell you how proud I am as a mom of my children who just went away 2 years ago, came back, and what do you know? I know family wealth is everywhere. So I did a good job as a mom, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Right.
And I will say, when I first started hearing about this, which was about 9 months ago, then I made Marcia watch. Then it was like every other show was a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have changed, and I am very happy that it is getting away, and they're trying out new themes,
new things,
and it's great. It's great.
Listen, I want to say for all the ladies my age who are way, way, way past the time of I mean, I was thinking about it, boy, to be in your 20s and certainly, I mean, these ladies are so lovely and so lovely to work with, but. And certainly so lovely to watch as well, so that's part of it. But it is nice that I think at least some of the storylines I've been seeing coming through are, pointed to different professions and some of the challenges they face, or let's say an older, meaning over 35, woman who is meeting someone and having a relationship. I mean, I think obviously there's so many stories to tell out there and so many great actors to be able to to tell them. So I'm glad to see it branching out because there's only room for so many billionaires in this world.
Exactly. And one more question. I lied, Marcia. Sorry.
Yeah, I see that.
Do you find that some of the younger actors come to you for advice because you have been, you've done stage, you have done, You've done all the
thing. Well, I would say that, advice maybe not. Well, it's interesting. I'll tell you that story in just a second. I would say that having made, a lot of really lovely friends over the last year, we did have many opportunities on set on those, they can be long days on set and downtime. Although most of the younger people are pretty much in, the leads and are all almost in every scene or whatnot, but on lunch and at different times, because I maybe would have, say, if there's 7 or 8 or 9 days, maybe 5 or 6 days, maybe 3, it just kind of depends. But I got to be friends with them. We had so much fun. And we would talk about whether it's theater or the directions our careers are going or other things that we're working on. And I found that to be, those friendships, I still really, really cherish them, whether, these are people I met in New York or in Los Angeles. I would say that, the pace of the way everything runs, and I'm sure other people have talked a lot about this, they can be long days and they're very quick and everybody's got to be really sort of in line, 1 take, 2 takes, get it done, lay it down, move on, so there's not a whole lot of time during the day to do that, but there would be many days where I would have to stay over multiple nights and we would spend time talking. And I really have to say, those friendships are, I hope that I have them forever. And many of them are the women I played their mother or my son, different sons of mine who I keep in touch with. I feel like we all learn from each other on these sets because, it takes a village to do it all, whether it's 25 background people that are, there really important to the execution of the scene and to move things along, or the policeman, or the inveterate, the person who is your assistant, the personal assistant becomes very important as well, or the getting in and out of the car scenes where there's 55 people to help you get in and out of the car, I feel like, so to answer your question, which I'm not really doing a very good job of.
Oh, yes, you are.
We become friends outside of there. In fact, one of dearest person was having a birthday this weekend and wasn't able to make it to the party, but we still keep in very good touch. And I love consulting with him on what his next move is. And I think you should go. I think you should do it. Or, so I hope that they see me that way. Although many of these younger actors have such really fine, really a lot of great experience and such fine resumes for being very, very soon out of school and will be just continuing to really rise in the trajectory. They're doing such lovely work, really.
Now, Justin has a question. He has asked this to most all of our guests. So Justin is a huge vertical drama fan. On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not at all, and 10 being you are that person.
Right.
How much do you relate to Helena and Tessa?
Okay, now remind me. Okay, let me just think for a second. I know Tessa because I just did it.
He gets back into the deep thing. Justin,
you
if
do.
You can give a little more.
Then Justin, give me
little more details. Like if you remember the name of the show, that would help.
Is it After the Awakening?
It's about a 5-second delay. So
okay. All right.
So go ahead and answer the Tessa.
Let me talk about Tessa because Tessa I just did and isn't out yet. And this was a werewolf one. And Tessa was the mother of one of the rivals. And so there was a lot of very lovely sort of the stage, the setting of it was just wonderful because I love the fantastical and I love the torches at night and the whole world of it, So there was a little bit of the otherworldliness to that character that part I really when I say I identify with it, what I mean is there was a very instinctualness about the character that was sort of otherworldly that I really loved. I don't know how I am that way. I just feel that way. Not like I have some sort of, strong vision into another world or anything. It's not that at all. It's more just a sort of I don't know, like feeling like I can feel things deeply or sense things deeply. And I think most actors have that. I don't think that's anything unusual really, but I love that quality of being being a little mysterious, a little sort of, I love horror films and I love being in that genre, and sort of the juxtaposition of like, you know, what is real, what isn't, kind of thing. So that part of Tessa I really enjoyed. Plus I had some really fabulous costumes that I'd never had on that one. I wore a lot of hoods and a lot of jewels and a lot of sparkly and a lot of belt and a lot of just long kind of trailing things. So that was really fun. And I love costumes. Always, you know. So part of the way I find the character, which is a lot of people, you know, is through the costume and sort of the flow of it and the fabric and all of that.
So scale to 1 to 10.
Okay.
10 is that you're like them.
Oh, I'd say probably, I'd give myself maybe for Tessa, maybe 7, 8, something in there. I felt like I had a lot to pull on. Like if I was a magical being, I felt like I could, you know, pull on that part of it. And Helena, I want to say,
yeah, it says the other miracle Luna showed. Does that make sense to you?
Was it? Oh, was that the one? Yes, with Hunter. Okay. Again, same thing. Yes. I had, like, she's a, if I'm remembering correctly, and I've got my character straight, yes, she was the sort of soothsayer, the teller. And so she comes sort of out of the woods and kind of into the scene, and is trying to place the female character as the daughter of a friend of hers. So again, very long clothing, sort of magical witch type quality to it, but a good witch. And I loved it. I loved it. Again, I had I think I had a hood scarf on there, and we were outside and it was very cold, I remember. And I felt so for the leads who were just out there for, you know, hours at a time and all kinds of heat mechanisms on them, you know, and I just ran out and did my, you know, 5-minute scene or whatever. But I remember it was lit very beautifully, and there was, like, you know, coming in at a certain time of day and coming through the trees and everything. And there was a real magic to it. And that's what's kind of fun about those, the werewolf ones, you know, is there's this sort of an otherworldliness to it that's very fun to play with as an actor, I think.
Yeah, ARC 54 just has a little statement, and I totally agree with it. Hi, Tina. I am so glad you joined Talented Universe for this podcast. It is a pleasure to listen to you.
Well, thank you. I'm so delighted to be asked. I mean, I love celebrating everything like creative and talented people, and it's, you know, it's really thanks to you for making it possible.
Oh, we're so happy that you came with us. Marsha, I'm letting you take over now, like I promised. 15 minutes ago. I'm letting you take over
we
now.
know you can't count because that was 1, 2, 3 questions. But okay.
Oh, keep going. It's fun.
No, I said 15 minutes, Marsha. I said.
When we know that you have done dozens and dozens of stage productions, more than dozens of stage productions. So the difference between the acting for the stage, where you make yourself large and then you come to such a different format. How was that? How did you pull it in?
Yeah, well, long and hard I studied and studied a lot. Studied, you know, what, you know, sort of cinematically what the camera sees as opposed to what, you know, sort of bringing it to the back row, if you will. I've done a lot of shows for relatively small, my own theater company and others, and most of them were, you know, under 100 seat theaters. So this is not, you know, we're not playing Broadway here, and it does feel very intimate, and I love that about doing small theater is you really almost can deal with it, not quite like it is television because it's not that small. But what I love about the stage is, of course, I come from a very physical dance background, and sort of I was a gymnast in high school. So my body is always kind of in motion. And that was one of the hardest things for me in working, and still is, in working in television and film, is to really like let that camera sort of come to the back of your imagination and sort of have a front row seat to your life and your experiences and all of the things that you've done that really shine through, I think, the eyes and whatnot. So it took, I'm still working on it. I still work on it as much as I can, because it isn't, I had to learn it, and I'm still learning.
Mm-hmm. I will say one of the things I noticed about you, I have looked at snippets of your stage work and your film work, the drama, the comedy, the absurd, and you have amazing eyes, which
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I well, thank you. I have come to understand in this world that we are working in now, depending on if it's, close up of, like what is the shot that we're working on, that that the story, like the imagination, is just so hugely important, at least for me, in coming to the table in television and film. I love working. I mean, it's kind of this great combination of both, because depending upon what the shot is, you get all of that wonderfulness of being with other people in a room and creating something in the same way that you do on stage. Maybe if they're a foot or two away from you, but then you also have that wonderful challenge of when the coverage is on you, of really, like, to the degree that I am possible, pull the audience into the world of that character for that short time being. And also just what I also love about it is sort of creating in your mind, what is the picture of that character? Like, I always have a picture in my character, a painting or some person or something I've known. I oftentimes will pick like paintings. I love going to museums, and I'll think this character is like that painting of that I remember. And then I try to sort of work with that or keep that consistent, so that, my reactions and what the camera sees is consistent in that regard,
Mm-hmm. When part of what your theater work has been sort of the absurd theater, and how would you explain what that is to people? I know it's sort of based on some of Albert Camus.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a very kind of, so the name of the theater company that I've been the artistic director of for 20 years now is the Idiopathic Ridiculopathy Consortium. And where that name comes from is, and we talked about this, Marcia, before we went on the air today, I work and have worked for many years. I worked full time for many years, but not so recently. Now I'm part time in medical education, and so the word idiopathic is, right, a medical term that means no known cause of origin, and so and then ridiculopathy is just a play on ridiculous, really. But so absurd is, what drew me to the work of Samuel Beckett and Franz Kafka and a lot of the Eastern European writers that were writing back in, right after World War II and sort of back in the day, was they were commenting on the existential nature of life and what, whether it's, I don't happen to see it as nihilistic, but I see it as sort of freeing, that if you realize that, like, we're here and this is the life we have, and then whatever you believe about what happens after the life, but it sort of centers on the futility, if you will, of sort of, or you could say the meaninglessness of life, although I don't quite see it that way. I feel like, and so many of these authors have written on it so beautifully, Eugene Ionesco and Samuel Beckett, on how once you sort of realize or make your peace with whatever life means to you, it gives you great freedom to pursue your passion at great length. What I love about the absurdists is, particularly Samuel Beckett's work, is that it isn't, I love text and I love text-driven material, but this is about what is going on. It is the language, and so much the language, but it's what's happening between the lines and what's happening for the characters that are not speaking, and what they're going through at the time, particularly in the work of Samuel Beckett. And I know a lot of people would be like, oh, Lord, just don't ever send me to anything. But I also feel like there's just a beauty and a brilliance in it. It's very difficult work to do, but it's very full of emotion and of life and of inner life. And I think it can be really a gorgeous, it can be really gorgeous when it's executed, well. Like it's, like a lot of things, like Shakespeare, like many things, it's quite difficult to do, but it is, I think it's beautiful work.
And looking at vertical, we call them vertical dramas, but they're comedies now, they're science fiction, there's fantasy. Do you think that this stage type of work could translate to the vertical format?
Well, I certainly do feel there is an energy and a focus and a sort of heightened sense of it, of the ones that I have worked on anyway. I know some of them lean into, and some of the auditions that I've had recently, the director has asked for a much more sort of, for lack of better, just sort of, simple execution on it, as opposed to like a larger, more kind of, heightened response.
Subdued.
Very
Subdued, maybe. That was
subdued,
nuanced.
And they're starting. It's interesting because the directions on the auditions that I get a lot are starting to get. I mean, not that some have always been specific, but they'll be specific about that, because I think maybe because there are different kinds that are happening now. They are, I think, and thankfully so, being very specific about what they want. In other words, like I'll make big, bold choices. These characters are like large, in the large emotional sense of the word. So I do think that and absurd drama have a lot in common, because basically in an absurd work, it's not psychological drama in that there's sort of the pacing of kind of the way a conversation normally goes. What you're seeing in the absurdist is sort of the paroxysm of the emotion, right? So it just is things banging up against each other, a little bit like the world is now. It's just like things hitting each other, and there's just a lot of sort of raw energy or emotion coming at it. Some of the verticals that I've worked on recently have kind of, a little bit more been much more, I guess I'll use the word subdued, or sort of very kind of intense, but a lower decibel of delivery on it. Very, very specific and very pointed, but very not quite as, kind of. And it also depends on the scene. Like there's, when they bring in, armies of people coming in to support the whatever the cause is, and there's, you feel like you're going to see like horses coming over the, the horizon, whatever. It's a much larger kind of, that calls for a larger, and it's also the director, whatever the director is calling for, and usually they're very specific about that. All right, people, we need to, we need you to bring the big guns here, That's part of the fun of it, is to be able to sort of play differently depending upon what the scene and the particular story calls for.
Would you be interested in directing a vertical?
Oh my gosh, I love directing. I absolutely love directing, and it's really funny you say that, Michael, because I worked under a woman director for one of these who was just wonderful. And she also happens to be an actor, and a very good actor. And I think that because she has quite a lot of experience as an actor, she really, it's sort of always a bonus, I mean, I've been fortunate to work with really good directors on all of these things. So there's, but it got me thinking about directing. But I'm having such a great time now, being everyone's good mom, bad mom, CEO, soothsayer, grandma, all of that. I feel like, and there's a lot of really good directors out there. That's the thing. I mean, I do feel like a lot of these dramas are very blessed to have some really good, good people,
experienced people,
very experienced. Yeah, I've really worked for some really fine directors.
Have you found that, and we talked before, that you and I both have a background in medical education and that kind of stuff. It's so different. It's a graduate medical education and student medical education can be so specific. Either this is the answer or it's not the answer. You pass, you fail, that kind of thing. How do you think that has helped you in your other work? Or is it freeing to be so different?
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of similarities. I mean, I think, from an early age, I was kind of a kid who really liked the specificity of things. For, I guess, on some level, it provides me a certain level of comfort in an existential world that is often anxiety producing for me. So I think that, like, being specific was something that I always, that I always gravitated towards, or maybe perhaps just needed, as a comfort on some level. And I do love that about the medical education work and the work that I was doing, is that, while there are many answers to things, there often, or many ways to do things, there are often one answer to a question, as we both know. What I love about medical education is I love that it's both creative and it is very the facts. There's the science and there are the sort of, this is the way. Like, I do a lot of education in just helping students to practice, like, physical exam maneuvers, and there's a specificity to that, like, say, a neurological exam. There's sort of a specificity to how that sort of gets done, or how it is taught anyway. And I love that about it. And I love that about working with the students. I do think that acting and theater, directing specifically, is a very, particularly television and film, a very technical form. I think there are a lot of, as we spoke about before, I had to learn a lot about what a camera sees, which is different than what an actor does sometimes. What the camera sees and what sort of what your goals are can be at odds sometimes, or can be going different directions. I love that about film and television, that it is so specific and that it has this sort of technical around it. But then again, once it's sort of like ballet a little bit. I studied, dance when I was a kid. And it's like, once you get the steps down and get the technical aspect of it in, then you're in that lane and you can just fly in that lane with all your creative, your imagination, as long as you stay sort of like in the lane that the lens, the lens sees. I hope I answered your question. That was a little long.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I did want to, before we run out of time, talk about a project that you did a few years ago, Sisters in Freedom.
Oh, yes. For the history, the group, it was in Philadelphia. Yeah, about it's a number of years ago, and it was about the underground, the Underground Railroad and the movement there. I only worked on this project for one day, but one of the things that I love the group. It's History Making Productions, and they do a lot of work, highlighting Philadelphia and all of the wonderful history and whatnot has happened. And one of the things I love about the city is that, there is, right, every direction you look, just so much to look back to. and I think can be super comforting. You know, one of the things that I do when I'm in the city is to go walk those old, you know, near the Liberty Bell and where the Constitution, you know, all of America happened, and just remind ourselves of like how many people came before us to do the work that made this country what it is, you know. And so it was a privilege to work on that production. I don't know, whenever I feel like you can sort of contribute your talent to something that is keeping the stories going about our history and our world and whatnot, you know, I'm always on board for that. I was a pretty minor character in that film, but I really was privileged to be asked, and I think the company's done some really, really wonderful work.
Yeah. I even though I'm in Florida right now, I was born and raised in New York City. So and I've been to Philadelphia and touched the Liberty Bell when you could. You can't do that
Right,
anymore.
right.
But
Well, yeah. Where in New York?
Well, I was born in Harlem. I was raised in Queens, and I'm a New York Mets fan. Yes, Michael, I put in my plug for Major League Baseball.
She gets it in anytime she can.
All right.
Anytime we have someone that's in New York, you know, it's like
you gotta. Our teams are what keep us going, right?
Right. Are you a fan of?
I am. I mean, I love sports of all forms. For us, I just think sports is, for me anyway. Growing up as a kid, it was how I found a lot of my. And I think it just really teaches us how to work together, you know, in a way that is like so important, regardless of what you're doing. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell you that I'm a person that is like at every Phillies game or at every, you know, but I do love. I have so many friends and neighbors that are fans, and they really go out on it. Like, I'm in New York a lot of the time, but I'm in Philly, and when I'm here, my neighbors on this block are huge Philadelphia Phillies fans, and all the teams really, and they do the block party like you know, like in true Philadelphia fashion, you know.
So you get whipped up into it.
Oh,
you know that the Mets and the Phillies, we're not cool.
Yeah. I know. So I'm going to have to, like, I kind of just keep it on the DL. Like, I don't go wearing any, you know, any shirts or anything. Although I was coming from New York, I had to come back down to Philly for something. And I was on the subway, and there's a game tonight, I think, because it was just flooded with Phillies people going to South Philly. So,
so you own some gear.
Well, I do. I just don't wear it because I'm afraid that, like, I'll get taken out or something. I don't know. I'm not too studied on who. I mean, I know a little bit about who will not be in the same company with other teams, but I love the spirit of it, and I love like what it does to get people excited about where they live, you know.
And this is I kind of translate that feeling into there are a lot of fans of the vertical format who are fans. Have you come across, you know?
I have. I mean, you know, I would say the supporting, like, I don't know, as a good mom, bad mom, you know, CEO, whatever I am, I'm there really to, you know, to move the story along in the way that moms do, and CEOs and janitors and werewolf people and all of that. So I think the majority of the, you know, I mean, and I'm super appreciative to everyone who reaches out when they see a show, because, you know, it is so nice to know, like, when you do theater, right? You're in the audience, you feel that applause, people come to you after the show and you get to talk to them about what they really thought about the show. The downside of, I guess, you know, when you're at sort of working where you don't know who's really watching, you know, I mean, obviously your big stars and your A-lister folks and all that, you know, but I love the fact that there's this very dedicated group of people who love this form and really reach out to you and tell you exactly what they love about the characters and the storylines. And I don't know, it provides such a, I don't know, I just think it's a kind of, on certain of the stories. And I love that they're very specific about what they do like and don't like, because I think that's going to help to drive the stories. Do you know what I mean? Drive different content and drive the way new ideas and stories are told. So I love that the fans are so vocal about what they like and don't like. And yes, they do reach out, and they and that part is very fun. And it's fun to watch the folks playing the leads, how they really have developed such great followings, and deservedly so. They work very hard. So I love that people are very invested.
What is you said, I know you have more than several projects that are coming out that haven't come out yet. So what can you tell us about the next one that we might see, or can you give us
right? So
that you're allowed to say.
Yeah, I think I probably said. So the question that was asked about sort of the differences in Tessa and sort of Helena. Tessa is that character that one is coming out. I'm going to guess in, I don't know, 6 weeks or a month or so. Yeah, I'm very excited to see it. It was a new group of people. I was in Los Angeles for that one, and really wanted to see. I had never been to LA before, so I really wanted to kind of see the vertical world that was formed and founded. And, I wanted to see how, and many of the people that I'd worked with in New York, were from Los Angeles and spoke so wonderfully of how things worked out there. And so there was a lot for me to be excited about. First of all, just like seeing the city and the sun and the way it worked in Los Angeles, the way the vertical form was working as compared to, say, working on so many verticals in New York City. I also went to Mexico and worked on one right outside of Guadalajara, and that was a huge amount of fun as well. So I kind of sidestepped your question, Michael, there. I don't know how much I can say about it other than I did love the character, and I really loved the people I worked with on that one. And I'm very interested to see where we shot was just the homes that we shot in and around Los Angeles were just stunning in a way that I love architecture, and I love like the story and the history. And one was a sort of a Tudor situation that was just, I could have just been there for days, just walking through the home and just because, it's your imagination that gets sparked. And then, and it was a perfect setting, of course, for what we were doing. So that's probably as much as I can say, but
I don't want to get you in trouble, that's
well, I often, it's like, oh, what am I allowed to say, what am I not? But yeah, I'm very, very excited to see. And I'm also really, with as much time as I have, trying to explore and really watching very intently to many of these newer, was I new, but I mean, different stories. And I'm applauding them each step of the way, and applauding the fans for really speaking out and saying what they are enjoying and like what they, what kind of is hard for them to watch. I just think it's good to get the conversation out there.
And everybody is different. So, I mean, it's
something for everybody, really. I do. That's one of the kind of wonderful things about it is, and I do, growing up when I did, I remember there being 4 or 5 different soap operas that were on, network television. And then they did, they had the sort of evening soap operas, but I love that there is just something for everybody. And also that you can follow the folks that you really have come to love,
and they do. We have found that out.
Gosh, yes, yeah. I know. And for good reason, I mean, they earned it, and it's a big world, so it's nice to see new people coming along as well.
Yeah, we've got about another 5 minutes or so. So if anybody in the chat room has not made a comment because they've been listening so intently, please throw that comment up, and I'll try to get it on before we go off the air. Marcia, do you have a final 1 or 2 or 12 or?
Oh, come on. Come on, Michael.
No, I know. She wants the fun stuff.
No, go ahead. Well,
no, you go ahead.
No,
so many different kinds of characters. You play the powerful, the the funny, you've done it all. Do you have a particular one that you haven't played? Yeah, I sound like Michael now.
Oh, yeah. Well, I will say, I wouldn't say there's one that I haven't hit on. I mean, they're equally fun. There was one of the first ones I did where the mother was just she was just awful. She leaves her granddaughter at home and goes to a spa day, and it's it's just bad, but I tried to bring to it, like, there was a certain ridiculousness about her, the fact that she was doing these things, and so there was a little bit of a comedy sort of underneath of it that made it, not that there was anything funny necessarily about the story, because there's nothing funny about it, but the mom was just off her rocker, and that was fun. I do like the mom who's, I did a couple where the mom is just fighting for her. Yes, the billionaire son comes back from having been gone forever, and she's he's disappeared and she's fighting to find him. Those really kind of strong emotional roles are really fun. But also the one I played, one that I just absolutely loved early on, where she was, she was an employee. I played Mariah Moss's and Hunter Cole's, like, one of their employees, who is fairly soft-spoken and has a child who has, who has medical bills and whatnot. And that part I really loved playing as well, because it was sort of a quieter, more, just a sort of a quiet mom, which was kind of an interesting, different part for me. I don't know. I'm excited that writers will create new parts for women my age that can be, all different kinds of things, but all different kinds of women, moms, grandmas, soothsayers, you name it. It's, I'm looking forward to seeing the stories that are written.
My last little question is, what is your comfort food? If you were, when you reach for something, what?
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess, comfort food. I just had, before I came on the air, and I do have to say I love it, a mishmash of, like, nuts, chocolate, yogurt, fruit, all not mushed up together, but like in the same bowl. Because I wanted protein, but I love sugar. I love fruit. I wanted something that would give me some energy, but would also, kind of not make me, I don't know, tired. But then if I want to be tired, pizza is, who can not love? I just love to eat, so there's so many things. And I have a lot of different kinds of comfort food, macaroni and cheese. There's all kinds of things.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay, Justin has one comment, and he says, "You look like Marcia Cross a bit."
Oh, why, thank you. That is a huge compliment. So thank you so much. If I can walk in her shoes, or walk in my own shoes, but know that her spirit is there. She's quite an actor.
And I have one last question, because the first vertical actor I tried to get on, it took me 3 to 4 months to get him on, because he was booked solid. And because he was going to China to film articles. Is that on your bucket list, that if you were invited, would you love to go to China?
I absolutely would. I absolutely would go to China. I think that there have been a couple of other countries in play that have reached out, because, you know, it's like when we were in Mexico, it's, oh, you know, the people are lovely, the food is wonderful, you can produce, there's, you know, all of that. So I love to travel, and I certainly would do that. And many of the younger folks that I've worked with on these verticals, as you well know, are over in, you name it,
all over the place,
all over the place doing this. So I'm always so excited to see them getting out their passport and doing that. I absolutely would do that. I had a pretty, you know, I was busy like all throughout 2024 and into the sort of, and just got back not that long ago from LA. So it was nice to take a little bit of a rest. You know, and I appreciate, I'm working on a stage show now that's going to be happening in the fall. So I have that happening for me. But yeah, I would love to do that. I love to see other cultures and how verticals are produced in other countries. And I think that would be fabulous.
Yeah. And everyone that I've talked to that have been there, that they've just loved it.
Yeah. Everyone that I know has had just, I mean, that's the thing. The people are really wonderful on these projects. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, if you're working with people you love, you're doing work that you enjoy, you're telling stories, and you're having fun doing it, there's really, I mean, you know, that you are blessed if you're doing that, I think.
I totally agree. Marcia, did you want a final little quickie question, or do you?
Well, I am just so grateful to talk to you today for a lot of reasons, because you have a broad base from which to draw, and you can see that in your performances, and I look forward to your projects, and I hope you'll stay in touch with us and let us know what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, just to have the opportunity. You've both been so delightful, and Marcia, we have a connection that a strong connection that not many people can say, you know. And Michael, thank you for your work, and thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. And I mean, if you want to do just a show with Marcia and talk medical, I'm sure she would love that.
Talk about, well, I love the question about like, how do the two things dovetail, because I think there's so much creativity from what I've been able to see in medicine, the art of diagnosing, you know, and I'm on the periphery of all of this, but I think these things in our world blend, they blend together, you know. Art and science are in everything.
Oh, here's something that's, you know, kind of I was referring to. Would you do a multi-episode series that lasts for several weeks or months?
Oh my gosh, yes, I would love that. Because, and you know why I would love it? I mean, it's because it's just like, you know, every time you get to the end of working on a theater piece, and you've been doing it for months at a time, and they're like family and everything, it is always just like a little piece of your heart breaks off, you know. And that's even more so when you work on these, because it's such a short, you know, it might be a week or less. So yes, I would love to be in a situation with people.
We'll talk.
I would love to do that. Yes, I would love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, on behalf of Talented Universe and NDB Media, we'd like to thank you for coming. ARC 54 was hoping she could get on today to be on live with you, but she had some other commitments that she had to deal with. And I know she was not too happy. And I think that's what she was talking about, because I think she would like to. She's in the medical field too. She was an emergency nurse.
Oh,
so
could have a
festival.
So yeah, exactly. So I think that's what she's thinking. So I think I just blew her little, you know, thing. But it would make total sense for you three to get to.
That is one story you asked Marcia, and I did get a couple of auditions for medical ones where there was doctor something going on, but it was like the storyline was the person was, you know, I thought, oh, this is fabulous, I love this. So that's the answer. That's the one I haven't done.
That's the one you haven't done. Okay, there you go. But on behalf of us, we'd love to have you back. If you want to do a series with us, let us know.
We'll be in touch.
We'll be in touch. And so thank you everyone for joining us.
Thanks everybody.
Please take a look. We've got some more coming up. She was our last one scheduled, but I've had 5 contacts today that they all want to book. Whole bunch of stuff. We've got stuff coming from our librarians, the next chapter, some actors, and I'm confirming the costume designer. is going to come on with us,
Mm-hmm.
and everything again. She's been on with us before for the arc, so it's exciting. So keep an eye on and see. Don't miss anything. We'll see you later. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.